My name's Justin Wood. I'm a research associate in the G. Magnotta Lyme Disease Research Lab at the U of G. When I was in university, I was very active on the weekends in the outdoors. I would definitely say adrenaline junkie. In the summers, I would do tree planting, but I also did a lot of hiking and backcountry adventures, and there's a couple occasions where I remember finding ticks crawling on my skin. I first started really noticing something was wrong probably in around 2011. I had muscle pains, I had some cardiac issues. I had tried so many avenues trying to get better and it wasn't working, I was getting worse. Things started to get a lot more dramatic. Just trying to use a computer, read a book, listen to music, it all became things I couldn't do. It felt like an absolute certainty that nothing would ever change. The process for trying to get diagnosed was pretty terrible, to be honest. I bounced around the medical system for years. I started with sports medicine, and then I saw neurology and a number of other specialists. And they would prescribe something, usually a low-dose antidepressant. And they would say, this will make you better, and it would make me worse. I probably saw 20 to 30 doctors in this time, in all sorts of different fields, and nobody had any answers that were working. I spoke to my physician, and they said, I think I might have Lyme disease. They said, maybe. And when I first got the diagnosis, there was sort of a very confusing couple of days trying to make sense of it. I really wanted to do something quickly about it. So I went back to my physician and I immediately said, I want antibiotics. The treatment started, and it started very well at first. You have to keep in mind that at this time I had been very sick for 2 years, and I had been increasingly sick for almost 5 years at this point. So I was in bad shape physically. I started to have really severe reactions, and every time I would take one of my antibiotics, I would feel about 100 times worse. I would feel like I was burning from the inside out. It was almost unbearable to the point where I would cry every time I had to take a pill. It took probably 2 years before I found a treatment that actually really was impactful for me. For most of this period, I had been unable to walk anything more than about 100 meters. And I started this therapy, and about 2 or 3 weeks into it, I remember going to the park and there was a bench I used to just sit at just to be outside. I had never been able to walk across this baseball field. It'd been years since I'd been able to do that. And I just felt different that day. And I got up and I walked across the field, and I thought, wow, this is the first time in years that I feel like something is changing. I think the key for the science here is we just don't know enough. And in order to understand that, I feel like we really need an integrative approach that looks at factors from the tick, factors from the bacteria, factors from the host. Something we've identified as being a continuous challenge is for people who are sick to get a diagnosis for Lyme disease. So now is really the time to strike with these sorts of things. We needed the diagnostics 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but now we need them more than we did then. We have more people affected, and we have more people that are aware of the issue. And I think one of the drivers for doing this kind of research is I think it does give people hope. So there's a lot of change, and I think a lot of it is driven by what we do on the bench. It's driven by the research. That's the core to all of this. It's really important that we're impactful, and I know that that drives most of us every day to push as much as we can to change this field.